Hi Jess, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for coming into this space to discuss importance of coaching or importance of being a leader in coaching for leadership development.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, thank you. So before we start, would you like to introduce yourself, please? Oh,
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jas. I do coaching on the side, but I work in user experience as head of user experience or product management. But yeah, coaching something that I've been developing more of as I progress within my career.
great, great, thank you. And you being a leader yourself as well, and who had the coaching
Yeah,
experience, right? So,
yeah, absolutely. So in one of my previous roles, when I was head of content, I was assigned a coach by my manager, which was to begin with was a little bit, why do I need a coach? You kind of just view
yeah,
that.
uh,
But I remember going to the coaching session. I steered into it, and I was just blown away by how powerful that was. The very first session that I had with my coach was very powerful, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I ended up crying because
oh,
we just kind of just unpacked something on there, and the coach was brilliant at holding the space, and because I'd accepted to kind of like go into that whole process and everything, we started unpacking things, and for me as a leader, because this was my first proper leadership role, it was just great to kind of have that conversation with a trusted coach, but then also explore, okay, how do I own this role that I've been given an opportunity in? Because in traditional careers, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, you just go up the ladder, but you're not really supported, or there's not enough support on that. And I kind of just fell into leadership, and that. So it was a very great opportunity that my manager presented me with, like, look, why don't you have a coach and just explore where that was. So for me, I found it a very powerful set of coaching sessions on there that helped me unblock a few barriers that I was kind of just experiencing in that position, but also to own the position that I was in and take it to the level that I could take it to.
yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing this. And I want to applaud you for thanks for being vulnerable as well, for sharing your story as well. So gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we start discussing coaching and leadership, what actually inspired you to become a leader and then obviously come into coaching?
Yeah. So with my career, it was just because I was in a startup environment, and as the team was growing, naturally my position just moved into or formed into a leadership role. And when I had the opportunity to be coached, because I was liking the change that was happening, I always thought, how could I be a better leader to my team? And I always use that mindset of like, be the leader that you wish you had um, on that. And I thought coaching is a great tool. So why don't I use some of the coaching principles that I'm learning through my coaching experience and bring those back to my team? So just a few, like, asking the very open-ended questions on that. And it was just really powerful because it transformed the conversations that I was having with my team. As kind of like a leader, there's kind of this unwritten rule that you kind of take everything on board, and you've kind of got to put out all the fires and all of that, and that in itself can be quite taxing on any individual. But actually, using the coaching framework and the coaching mindset, you're able to create that space for the individual, build up their confidence, and they can go champion those things for you. And you're there to support them. You're not ignoring them or anything, but you're there to support them. You're giving them the opportunity to grow, and that was really great for me because then that helped me then pivot my thinking more into, okay, I'm supporting my team, but I'm now thinking more strategically around how we work collaboratively as a team to move back in that time content further within the organization.
Mhm. So then why do you believe that coaching is essential for leadership development?
So coaching, it offers a safe space to kind of explore and think about your own thoughts. I think as a leader, it helps you create a better rapport with um, your direct reports. But also, one of the key aspects as to why I became a coach is at the time there weren't that many coaches that looked like me or that I
Mm,
had access to. So it's like, well, how could I create advocacy for that? And how can I believe coaching should be offered to anyone? Anyone from any background should have access to coaching. So what can I do to support that? But it's also providing that diversity and inclusion lens on it as well, and creating unity within the team and equality as well. I think that's what coaching brings out as well, because you're really listening to the individual, and it's, I would say it's active listening. You're not providing a solution, you're not providing advice, you're really allowing the individual to think and explore. There's also the level of empathy that's brought in there. So I think having coaches from different backgrounds, or leaders that are from different backgrounds that coach, is absolutely fantastic, because you're able to emphasize provide empathy, sorry, on a different level to every other individuals, to make them feel respected. Again, you're not solving a problem for them, but you're creating a safe environment for them to be themselves, and really live up to the role that they want to be.
mm. Yeah, so leader as a coach is very important, right? Coaching is for
Yeah.
being. Leader is, if a leader can become a coach, it helps them immensely. What other benefits you think are significant that leaders can probably gain from coaching?
Perspective. So you gain a lot of perspective from the other individuals, especially within your teams. You can also connect. I think it's quite good because you can then connect the dots. Like as a coach, you built that trusted environment with your coachee. So there's that um, ethical practice that you've got in there. But then you, as a leader, then you can view things from a different perspective. Like, oh, this person might need support in that, so you can put them in
Mm,
contact. Not revealing any information, but it might be to do with their development. It's like, oh, as a leader, you don't need to know everything, but you do need to know like who can help that individual with, let's just say a design problem, because they want to learn more about user research or something. Who can you connect the dots with, and how can you kind of create a development pattern on there? I think the relationship side of it is one of the key aspects as well, because you're building that greater relationships with the individual on is brilliant. But it's also a level of confidence on there. Everybody is trying to survive in any role that they're in. There's always this like, oh, I'm in this position, and there's kind of this like, am I good enough for that role?
yeah.
Am I going to be found out and everything? And there's all these like thoughts going in your head, and truth is, no one's thinking that or anything. They just want you to be able to do the job the best that you can do it on that. So providing that environment where they can kind of have those conversations, talk them through, and then move on to the next stage, I think is absolutely brilliant.
Mm. That actually brings me to the challenges. Obviously, you as a leader face probably a lot of challenges. And what are the like common challenges you think leaders face where coaching can actually help, you know, address them, or basically, or help you as a leader to think differently?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've experienced in my coaching sessions with, or challenges that I've experienced, is it's just like showing value. You get this in any role, but how do I show value of what I do? How do I make how do I have that like sense of purpose with the work that I do? So one of the exercises that I run with my team, or external coaching people that I work with, is like stakeholder management. How do we better understand our stakeholders? Because once you understand your stakeholders and what agenda they're pushing, from a business perspective, you can have better conversations to show how you're your kind of like work or your practice is moving into that. I think a couple more challenges that coaching helps overcome is you as a leader do not need to have all the answers, um, in that what you do need to do is be able to listen to what the team or the individual is saying on there. And it's being honest as well. If you don't know something, I think a lot of us leaders try and or feel the pressure that we have to have an answer to a question. It's like, no, you don't. If you don't know, you do not know. The team's going to respect you even more for not knowing. You can go away and find out. There was someone I was coaching within an organization, and they were doing a big organizational change, and you could feel the pressure that this individual was under. And so I asked a simple question to them, and I was like, "Did you make this decision?" Because the way that they were
Yeah.
talking about it, they felt like they were making this decision, and they're like, "No." And then so I said, "So where's the sense of pressure that you have to solve all of this?" And it was a light bulb moment for them because they realized actually I don't have to solve this, and what I do is I have to give the right information that they receive from above down to their team. So it's about the communication level on that and knowing their place within the cycle of change that was happening on that. And coaching, I think, allowed that person to explore more their communication skill side of things, of how communicate at the right time when's needed on that, and then just kind of the art of staying silent, because in coaching in general, the coachee will just figure out what they need to say, or what it is that they need to unblock what they're experiencing, and it's just holding that space without jumping in and thinking, "Oh, I know the answer to this. I could tell you to do this." But there's more power in actually the individual
Yeah.
exploring and working out what they can do.
Yeah. Yeah. That, you earlier you mentioned regarding when you got a coach first time, you think, oh, why do I need a coach? So from both side of experiences, being a leader and then now coaching yourself, what what will make leaders overcome? I mean, I think you should ask as a coach then, how do you actually help leaders overcome resistance to change? And then again, if you can link it to being a leader, what leaders need to think on this, that they definitely need a coach.
Yeah. So how do we overcome resistance to change? If we kind of like unpack that, the reason why there's a resistance to change is because we don't fully understand why it's happening.
Mm.
Um, and I think as a leader, once you've understand why that change is happening and using coaching practices, you can then explore with the individual. Tell them why. As a leader, you have to tell them why this change is happening, but then explore with them. It's like, well, how do they fit within this organizational change? What is the new world that we're walking into, and what is their role within that? Most of the time, it's like their role's not going to change. Everything that they do is going to be the same, but because there's this cycle of change that's hasn't been understood or the reasons behind it, um, you know, you can then unpack that with the people in your team and then work through it on that. I think as the follow up part of the question was, what do leaders benefit from it?
Yeah. So how as a leader you think, how you can basically come out of that resistance of change
Yeah.
to get a coach. Yeah.
So I think leaders at a level need to be transparent. Obviously, knowing when that they're able to tell certain bits of information. I think as we grow up and as we become more, I guess, I wouldn't say professional, but as we kind of level up in our careers,
Mhm.
there's this level of ambiguity that comes in. It's like, oh, I don't need to tell this. I don't know where this comes from. Um, and I get that leaders higher up are trying to do the right thing and protect everyone within the business. But there's this level of transparency that just disappears. And so we don't know the understanding of why things are happening. So I think as leaders, we need to get better at understanding why a change is happening, what does that mean to the business? But the messaging needs to be clear and consistent so that every leader can kind of go through and have that conversation with their teams at the same time and at the same level. With change, it's this. I think I found in organizations, it's this level. It needs to be repeated constantly through the change cycle. It's like, why are we doing this? Remind everyone why we're doing this and linking it back. I think as leaders, again, we get so focused on trying to make the change happen that we lose sight on linking everything back to that. So it's a level of communication that we need to filter through from top to bottom and make sure it's consistent.
Yeah. So before we end, Jas, thank you very much for your sharing your wisdom with us. As you know, this nowadays is the environment is quite volatile, right? Uncertain. So where do you see the field of leadership coaching evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? And where do you see actually leaders taking more plunge in taking coaching from the professional coaches in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think every leader should have the opportunity to go on a coaching course. I think it's a practice that should be encouraged with all the organizations. So I mentioned that I'm in my leadership style, I apply coaching to that, but I apply a 70-20-10 rule, which is 70% is coaching, 20% is mentorship, and 10% is you're a leader, you've got to lead, and that's your job. And I think what we should be doing, what I want to see more in the 5 to 10 years is I want to see more coaches like us at leadership level, providing more opportunities for people from from all walks of life to level up and just be themselves. I think what businesses perhaps underestimate is the power of coaching. I think there's this element where they perhaps see coaching as almost like a tick box exercise. It's like, yeah, it's there, use it as you want. But I think encouraging team members to explore it, work with that, and even have coaches trained in that helps build a better culture within the organization overall. Because what you can do is you bring that rich tapestry of insight in there to keep challenging how you improve things. You keep learning new things from different perspectives. So one thing that we used to do in one of our old organizations was I'd say it's not coaching, but it's reverse mentoring, where we would, I was assigned someone that was a junior in the organization, and they were mentoring me. And the amount of insight I took away from them was absolutely beautiful. I had to bear in mind, I had to really bite my tongue because I was like, because you kind of automatically slip into that role. I was like, here's what you're doing and everything. But I just listened to them, and we brought about so much positive change within that because I was learning from them as opposed to them learning from me. So it was a nice way of viewing things within an organization, and that empowered the individual as well, because you could see from that they were like very confident just from those initial chats that we did, and we started exploring new ways of how we could create better processes and create more equality within the business on that as well. So I think that's what I'd want to see more, is companies encouraging leaders to investing in that. And it's I wouldn't say just do like a 1 hour coaching session. It's like, no, do the due diligence and help your leaders go through the entire journey of that. I think also I would encourage leaders to do coaching more from a diversity and inclusion lens, because we've got a rich tapestry of multicultural people in there. It just helps us see things from other perspectives.
Yeah. Very well put. I think that is a great practice you just shared with us, Jas. Having a mentee from who's a junior and who is probably new to the company, and I can see how this helps creating the empowerment environment, the psychological safe environment in the organizations. So what I'm taking away is that leaders need to be coaches.
Yeah,
in the next 10 years. The more leaders are as coaches, the more better the organizations are. So
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Jas. Thanks for coming in to this workspace and sharing
No
your
worries.
wisdom with us. And have a great week. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. So, listeners, thank you very much for listening to this mini series. There are 7 episodes. This is the last episode of the International Coaching Week. Have a great week. Take care. Enjoy. Bye for now.